It's pretty amazing to have a God who suffers with us. I grew up and I liked listening to a lot of music, and one of my favorite songs was a song by a guy named Jeff Moore, and it was a song called One of Us. And this song goes, he was one of us, referring to Jesus, he was one of us, somehow like you and me. The God we served breathes the air that we breathe. And he says, he is somehow like you, somehow like me. I find it really incredible that God gave us a command in the Old Testament, and it's repeated in the New, that essentially as image bearers, we are to imitate the God of the universe. And we are to imitate his character and his priorities. And by Jesus coming and dying on the cross, and we don't want to limit his suffering to that, he went through rejection, he went through betrayal, he went through being actually aware of the possibility and mark of being physically crushed because the crowds are so surrounding him. Jesus knows what it is like to suffer here. In fact, in the Garden of Gethsemane, he says, my soul is sorrowful. Jesus knows what it's like to be troubled. He knows what it's like to be sorrowful. And he can identify with what we are struggling with and what we're going through. And to me, that's extremely important, because not only has he commanded us to imitate his character and his priorities, but also to respond as he has. Whenever he's on the cross and they're making fun of him and they're reviling him and questioning his identity of who he's proclaimed himself to be, he was able to say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And what an incredible example. In the midst of suffering, Jesus is still willing to forgive. And so we are called, according to 1 Peter chapter 2, part of our calling as followers of Jesus is we're going to suffer. It is what we get to do on behalf of the cause and call of Christ. But he's not asking us to do something that he, his son, the God incarnate, Jesus, truly human, truly divine, did not go through himself and our behalf and on our behalf. And in Paul's writings to the Philippians, he says, I want to know Christ and the fellowship of his sufferings. We're called to reflect those. And it is amazing to me that the very thing that God has called us to, he was willing to go through on our behalf. So he really was somehow like you and me. The God we serve breathed the air that we breathe.